This is undoubtedly the most disappointing Kentucky basketball season that I can ever remember. It feels like we lose, and then not only does it feel like, Kentucky loses every other game. We're 500 in the SEC. We're losing to all the bad teams, beating some of the good teams, sometimes losing to the good teams. There's no consistency. Kentucky's also never had a year where we had so many injured players who were key to our team. Lamont Butler's been out most of the year. Kirk Reese has been out basically the entire year. And now coming down the stretch, Jackson Robinson's hurt. It's like Kentucky can't catch a break. But also, this team just isn't that good. If you put things on paper, you look at the guys that we have, this team is not that good. And so the scary part for me as a Kentucky fan is that when we look into next year, we're looking to bring back a lot of these same pieces. We're going to bring back the same guys who aren't very talented. We only have 3 recruits. Mark Pope has only recruited 3 players to be on the team next year. 2 of them are from Kentucky, 2 of them are 4 stars, only one of them is a 5-star athlete. We haven't seen a recruiting class that poor since before John Calipari's days. And so, because Kentucky's only recruited 3 players for next year's class, what does that mean? That means that we're going to be in the exact same position next year where we have to go and get 7 or 8 guys from the transfer portal who, let's just be honest, are not that good. The guys who have already played 4 and 5 years of college basketball, if they were deserving to wear the Kentucky jersey, they would have already been playing for Kentucky. Nobody that Kentucky got from the transfer portal this year is deserving or worthy of wearing a Kentucky basketball jersey. They just lucked out into a situation in which they got to play for UK for 1 year. This cannot be a repeat thing. Kentucky cannot continue to get players from the portal every single year because those players simply are not good enough to play on our basketball team. End of story. The Jackson Robinson, Kobe Brea, Amari Williams, Ansley Almanor, Kirk Kriisa, Lamont Butler, all are good basketball players for another school. None of those basketball players are talented enough to put on the Kentucky jersey to walk the walk as a Kentucky player. They weren't highly touted recruits. They're not confident. They're not meant for the big stage. Those guys were never cut out to be Kentucky Wildcats. And so the frustrating part is not that it's Mark Pope's first year as a head coach. The frustrating part is that the frustrating part is not that it's Mark Pope's first year as a head coach. The frustrating part is that it looks like we're going to be building the exact same team next year, which is going to be mediocre again. Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player in the NBA when he wants to be. And the big part is that when he wants to be, if you can get Jimmy Butler to show up to work, he's unstoppable on the offensive end. He's a great passer, he's a great scorer, but he makes all the right decisions every time to get other players involved. Jimmy Butler is the key piece that the Warriors needed to bring Steph and Draymond another title. Since Jimmy Butler's been back, the Warriors are 5-1. They're not missing a beat, and the other guys on the Warriors who are role players are getting better. Brandon Podziemski has improved more than anybody else with Jimmy Butler's arrival at Golden State. There are players who are now able to feed off of the things that Jimmy does. And the Golden State Warriors are an NBA championship basketball team this year. You can look at it on paper. When the Warriors have a great 3, they're championship contenders. If the Warriors win it all this year, Stephen Curry is the greatest player to ever play basketball. And that is a fact. You can look at his team in 2022. He had nobody on that team except himself. It was a washed Clay, a washed Dre, and Jordan Poole, who had probably the best year of his entire career. If he does that again in 2025 with this basketball roster, there's no doubt about it. Stephen Curry has had the best wins with the least help. Steph Curry has the best resume with the least help compared to the other GOATs. And if he wins again this year, there's going to be no doubt about that. The career that we've watched Stephen Curry put together has been insane. He has 4 rings. He's been hurt at the beginning of his career. He was hurt a ton of the times. He came back, and we've basically seen Stephen Curry for 13 healthy seasons. We've basically seen Steph Curry for 13 healthy seasons, and he's won a championship in 4 of them. The entire time that Steph's been in the NBA and he's been healthy, he's been the big dog. He's been the favorite to win the championship. And it's not about his health. We've seen like KD come and leave, Clay leave, Draymond came, Jordan Poole came and left, Chris Paul came and left. The only person who stayed is Steph Curry. Stephen Curry is truly the most unique and the best NBA basketball player that we've ever seen play the game. It doesn't matter what his height is. It doesn't matter if he's physically dominant. It doesn't matter if he cleans the rebounding glass. His teams win. Stephen Curry is the best winner, the most talented basketball player that we've ever seen play the game. He's unstoppable at 6'2, 6'3. So why does he need to be 6'8"? He doesn't. He's the greatest player to ever play basketball. LeBron James has the most insane list of teammates that he's played with ever. LeBron has played with the most talented players in the NBA. LeBron has played with more talented players in the NBA than any other player has ever played with. Let's start with his teammates list. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Ray Allen, Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard. Like people don't realize LeBron has really been playing with superstars his entire career. Ever since he left Cleveland the first time, he's never had regular teammates. He's never had regular teammates. He has superstars on his team every single time. What are we going to say about that? We can't say that LeBron James is the GOAT when he always needed somebody else. It's like, why did he always need somebody else? If he was the GOAT, he would just go do it by himself. If he was the GOAT, he would have stayed on one team or maybe even just two his entire career. If he was the GOAT, he wouldn't be ring chasing other superstars. So when we take a step back after LeBron retires, let's put his legacy into perspective. LeBron James has been ring chasing now at this point 15 years. LeBron spent 15 years of his career ring chasing. He spent 15 years of his career playing with another top 5 player in the NBA, and he still only came out with 4 rings. That's not a GOAT resume. That's not even a good resume. LeBron James has been around for a long time. He's won some. But what it took for him to win is too much. It's too much. Dylan Harper's out of Rutgers is going to be the #1 overall draft pick. I know that I said before it was Ace Bailey. It's not Ace Bailey. Dylan Harper is going to go #1. He's a 6'7" guard. His court vision is unreal. He sees the entire floor. He can score at will. And he's just going to keep getting better. What you can tell about his game is that his game has room for improvement and he's already great. So his ceiling is way higher than somebody like Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg has already hit his ceiling. In terms of how the NBA is going to go, Cooper Flagg is going to be as good as he currently is. He's going to be comparable to somebody like one of the Plumleys, one of the Hansboroughs. I kind of like the Kevin Garnett comparison, but he's not as skilled as Kevin Garnett. And so Cooper Flagg's ceiling is very limited. He's only going to get so good. When he gets to the NBA, he's going to be day one ready. He'll be ready to hop on a team and play day one, sixth man, maybe into the bench starter, something like that. But he's not going to be a star. Cooper Flagg will never be a star on your team. Dylan Harper has the ability to be a true star on an NBA basketball team. Size at the point guard position right now is being valued more than we've ever seen. Cade Cunningham, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2 young guys taking over the league because they're bigger at the point guard spot. The game is changing a little bit in that way. Teams would prefer to have a bigger guard as opposed to a guard who's just a knockdown 3-point shooter, kind of moving out of the Steph Curry era. That's why I think that Dylan Harper should be the number one overall draft pick. And even if he's not, he will be the best player out of this draft. I know that to be a fact. The question that Cooper Flagg has to answer is what can he do by himself? Growing up, he was playing against no competition in high school. He was playing against no competition in AAU because he was playing down a year. Now, Cooper Flagg gets to Duke, and he's playing on one of the most talented college basketball teams that we've ever seen. He's going to have four teammates go first round, and he's going to have a couple other guys go second round. One of the more talented college basketball teams that we've ever seen. At Duke, for sure, at any university, probably. So, what does that tell us? That tells us that we still don't know anything about Cooper Flagg. We don't know what he can do by himself. We do know that when the game's on the line at the end of the game, he's somehow going to figure out how to trip and fall or slip on the court. He doesn't have that clutch gene. So when the spotlight is on Cooper Flagg and you put the camera and the lights on him real bright, we know that he's going to mess up because that's not what his DNA is. But what we don't know is what is his DNA without a bunch of superheroes behind him. Who is Cooper Flagg, the basketball player? That's what the NBA scouts are trying to find out as well. Cooper Flagg probably has the lowest ceiling out of any of the guys who are going to go top three in this draft class. Just because his game is what it is, he's not going to get a lot better, right? He could get stronger, he can become more physical, but in terms of jumping, he's not going to be jumping any higher. He's not going to be developing that much of a better shot. And he's never going to be the number one player on his NBA team. He doesn't have the skill set for that, he doesn't have the handles for that. Naturally, when Cooper Flagg gets on an NBA team, they're going to put him in a role where he can succeed. That role is going to be defense, scoring shots that he's able to score at a high clip. It's not going to be dominating the ball. It's not going to be shooting threes. It's not going to be breaking down his man in isolation basketball. No. Cooper Flagg, play defense. If you get a chance to dunk the ball, lay it up, or take an open shot, take those shots, and that's your role. And so when you put him into that role, Cooper Flagg, the prospect, really just becomes Dario Saric. And so I think that Cooper Flagg's ceiling in the NBA is Dario Saric. 6'9, 6'10, open shot maker, comes in, plays defense, and gives energy. He's never going to be a Kevin Durant. He's never going to be a scorer. He's never going to be a number one option. So that's why if I'm an NBA team with the number one draft pick, I'm drafting either Dylan Harper or I'm drafting Ace Bailey because those two guys can be the primary scorer on their basketball team.